Hello, and welcome to the history of commercial aviation in 16 short episodes. Most of us fly regularly, and jet passenger service has ushered in our current era of affordable world travel. I'll be using photographs of actual planes and some die-cast models to highlight aircraft built between 1952 and 1974 that significantly contributed to the aircraft we fly on today. I hope you find these posts interesting and informative. Episode 1. The Comet. The world's first commercial jet was built by British aviation manufacturer de Havilland, and it was named the DH-106 Comet. The prototype first flew in 1949, and it began revenue-earning service in 1952 with British Overseas Airways Corporation, BAOC for short. It was used on its London to Johannesburg route, which cut it from a 40-hour flight to a 23-hour flight. The aircraft was around 93 feet long and carried roughly 40 passengers. The Comet was an immediate sensation. It was the first passenger plane that could really fly above most of the bad weather, and its air-conditioned, fully pressurized cabin provided passengers with a quiet, smooth ride that was pretty much unheard of in commercial aviation up until that point. In its first year of operation, the Comet carried over 28,000 passengers, a total of 104 million miles. And by May 1953, de Havilland had firm orders for 50 Comets from the world's airlines and was negotiating for 100 more. Undoubtedly, the Comet was an unqualified success and seemed destined to dominate commercial aviation for the next 40 years or so. Unfortunately, though, things went downhill pretty quickly when several Comet 1s suffered catastrophic in-flight breakups. This was caused by metal fatigue and dangerous concentrations of stress around its square windows and its fuselage, which you can see in the bottom picture here. These issues meant the Comet 1 was withdrawn from revenue service in 1954 and underwent an extensive redesign to solve these problems. The redesigned Comet 4 began revenue service in 1958. It was lengthened by 18 feet to increase its payload. Structural reinforcements were made and the square windows replaced with oval ones, which are much better suited to dealing with the stress of pressurization, and therefore are used today. Extra fuel capacity was added in the form of two pinion fuel tanks, one on each wing, in order to improve its range. The Comet 4 did keep its predecessor's aerodynamically clean design, with its 4 turbojet engines buried in the wing roots. Many consider it to be the most beautiful jetliner ever built, and it certainly is pleasing to the eye. But experience proved that it was very difficult to pull engines for maintenance, and that it reduced fuel carrying capacity. The wing root is the thickest part of the wing, and that is where most fuel could be carried, and there are obvious risks to wing integrity in the event of an engine fire. That is why airliners today use pod engines under the wings or rear-mounted engines, and why this particular design is no longer used. Overall, the Comet had a productive 30-year career, and 114 of all types were ultimately produced, but it never really recovered its leading position from the early 50s, and rival manufacturers meanwhile had heeded the lessons learned the hard way from the de Havilland team and were developing their own aircraft, which would quickly be introducing more efficient products to the market. This is a 1/400 scale model of a Comet 4 registration G-APDP manufactured by Aeroclassics. Aeroclassics are the only manufacturer that has tried to make a Comet in the 1/400 scale, and overall I think they did a pretty good job. This aircraft was delivered to British Overseas Airways Corporation in 1959, and was one of 6 Comet 4 aircraft wet leased to Qantas Empire Airways from 1959 to 1963 for use on its Australia to United Kingdom services. I have to say, airlines definitely had cooler names back then than they do now. Anyway, this particular aircraft carried Qantas titles on its cabin roof and on the pinion fuel tanks in place of the standard BOAC titles. But all aircraft were crewed by BOAC flight and cabin crew. And it flew its last revenue service with an airline called Dan Air in March 3rd, 1973, and was eventually scrapped in 1984. Truly a classic.